Okay, so we're back from Eagles training camp, and there's so many different topics to get into seeing the birds in person. For one, wide receiver Elijah Cooks is better than advertised, and Johnny Wilson is in some serious trouble. But also, when it comes to the defense, the safety spot may be in better shape than we thought. Plus, Philly got some great injury news, along with a change in the schedule that should benefit them, and Jihaad Campbell is now being compared to Micah Parsons. Which, meanwhile, Dallas may not have Micah Parsons for the season opener. So let's talk about that and everything else around the birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? We're back from Eagles training camp, and unsurprisingly, it was an amazing experience. I mean, not only did we get to see the birds in action in person for the first time during camp, but I got several takeaways on the biggest positional battles, roster spots up for grab, and a few other insights.
There's too much competition.
On a serious note, real quick, I do want to thank the Eagles, Big Dom, and the Eagles Autism Foundation for having us out. Because it obviously wouldn't have happened without them, and yeah, kind of a given, but nothing beats analyzing the competition with your own two eyes. Although before I get into the camp notes and updates, I think we should probably break down the latest move from Howie Roseman. Since the Eagles trading defensive tackle Thomas Booker to the Raiders for cornerback Jakorian Bennett was officially made official by the league office on Tuesday. Something that I'll admit caught me a bit off guard.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Look, in hindsight, seeing Howie pull off a move for Bennett wasn't or shouldn't have been totally unexpected. After all, we're nearly 3 weeks into camp, and neither Kelee, Ringo nor Adoree Jackson have shown the consistency to take the starting job by the horns. Heck, no offense to those guys, but seeing Elijah Cooks, Darius Cooper, and Terrace Marshall Jr. beat them regularly hasn't led to a whole lot of confidence. At the same time, I don't want to come on here and try to make you believe Bennett solves all of our problems. Yet it's hard to deny how much upside the former 4th-round pick has. So check it out, you can't deny the irony of how Jakorian Bennett was actually drafted by the Raiders one spot ahead of the Eagles taking Kelee Ringo in the 2023 NFL Draft. And considering that the 24-year-old entered the draft as the 92nd most athletic cornerback ever out of over 2,000 corners taken, that kind of speaks for itself. You know, 5'11", 200 pounds, 4'3", 40 time with a 40-inch vertical. Yeah, Bennett's a gamer. Plus, despite entering the league at the same time as Ringo, he's got over 500 more defensive snaps than the Philly dog, with a pretty impressive resume when it comes to wide receivers he's held up against as well. For example, like Anthony DeBona shared versus Denver's Courtland Sutton, he only allowed 1 reception on 3 targets for 24 yards. Or against Pittsburgh's George Pickens, he allowed 1 reception on 2 targets for 15 yards. And against Cincinnati's Jamar Chase, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 16 yards. As well as locking down Los Angeles' Lab McConkey for 0 receptions, and the same thing for Jerry Jeudy. The best part, though, is like Eric pointed out, among cornerbacks playing at least 200 snaps last season, he was the best in the NFL in zone coverage, where the former Maryland standout allowed just a 52.1 passer rating in coverage as the primary defender, along with 0 touchdowns allowed, 0 interceptions allowed, 4.4 yards per attempt, and opposing quarterbacks completing just 45% of their passes. By the way, this is where it depends on which metric you use, because PFF had him allowing 1 touchdown, whereas Next Gen had 0, so either way, I mean, it's solid, but, pick your poison. Like I say, the bigger point is that Bennett is good. Granted, I hear you that Thomas Booker was a really likable player with some promising upside, but objectively speaking, Philly just fleeced Vegas in this trade. Okay, fine, I know I'm biased, but when the Athletics' Ted Nguyen is going on record to say never trade with Howie, and that he doesn't understand the move at all considering the untapped potential in Bennett, and that he hates the trade, then that should tell you how much the Raiders acted without thinking.
Listen, we up.
Alright, maybe that's a little bit of an overreaction. Sometimes we get hyped up too much. I'm not trying to say that Bennett's the end-all be-all, because it's a fair point that not only was the Raiders' secondary not good, but Las Vegas just traded away a guy who was getting 2nd and 3rd team reps at camp. Okay, and I get it, but a couple things on that, though. One, it's pretty widely known how much Pete Carroll prefers bigger, longer cornerbacks in the secondary. But 2, Bennett is actually coming off a torn labrum that he tried to play through last season. However, for any doubts or concerns there, he got it taken care of, he did clear the physical, much like Jihaad Campbell did, as Philly isn't any kind of stranger when it comes to risking it on those injuries. Oh yeah, one more thing, this is a dude who still has 2 years left on his rookie contract. So having said that, you get the benefit in both the short term and the long term. Anyway, getting some time to think about it now, the trade taking place on Monday, doing some research, looking up a little bit more about Bennett's game. How are you feeling about him and the trade in itself, but also how are you feeling about him winning the starting job? Look, I'll just say this. At the very least, it's adding some really good competition in the room.
Just adding depth to that position. I think both of those guys have done an outstanding job. And I know Vic talked about that yesterday. Just, that's a battle. You love having battles, and I think you can look out there and see Adoree make a play, and you see Kelee make a play, and you guys have seen it. They're doing a really nice job, and excited about how they worked and how they worked all off season, how they worked all summer, and came in here ready to compete. Competition brings out the best in all our guys. And we're looking forward to continuing those battles with those guys.
Okay, personally, I'm not buying the idea of Howie just adding Bennett there for some depth, but I got to ask, too, maybe the bigger, more important question is, what does the move say about the safety position? I mean, the odds are that you probably won't get 2 moves for starters. At the same time, I know it's Howie and anything is possible. But judging from Fangio's most recent comments and the safety play from both Sidney Brown and Andrew Mukuba, part of me thinks he feels okay about one of them winning the job. Also, another reason I say that is from what we saw on Tuesday at camp. Now, unfortunately, as you know, there's no filming allowed outside of warm-ups during practice. Yet the biggest thing I noticed from Sidney Brown was that he seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Albeit he didn't really make any great plays, but he also didn't make any bad ones either. Which I think tells you a little bit, seeing that Jalen Hurts was willing to test Andrew Mukuba, but seemed hesitant to go to Sidney's side. For the record, Mukuba got some reps in during team drills, which is a great sign for his injury status, and made a great play to break up a pass intended for tight end Kylen Granson. Although when Jalen tested the rookie again, Dallas Goedert went up and practically mossed Mukuba to bring in the touchdown grab. In all fairness, Drew was in a great position, it's just that Dallas made an insane play. Also, just taking a best guess here, but it doesn't sound like Mukuba will play Thursday based on the injury, still trying to rehab and play it safe. Anyway, another unique thing for the defense, though, was that Fangio elected to use his base defense for quite a bit during the drills, moving Cooper DeJean to safety and in turn sending Sid off the field, which did pay dividends on one play when Jalen Hurts was pressured and lofted the ball to the end zone. It's just that unfortunately, Dallas Goedert slipped and Coop was able to make the easy pick. Yeah, it was kind of a what is Jalen Hurts doing on that play, but again, situational period, or just lofted up there, practice. Jalen Hurts in a game probably takes a sack on that play, but I'm not too concerned. Also, had people asking, what about the third string guys, the guys on the bubble? Didn't get to see those too much, unfortunately, because it was mostly the ones and the twos. And I guess that somewhat makes sense in hindsight, seeing as though a lot of the starters probably aren't going to play against the Bengals on Thursday. Let me clarify that statement. The Eagles' offensive starters are very likely to get hardly any reps, if any, in the preseason opener. However, NFL insider Ian Rappaport shared that Cincinnati will be taking a different approach, with head coach Zach Taylor saying Joe Burrow and the other big-name players will play several series against the Eagles. And let's go. Somewhere, Vic Fangio just loves to hear that for his guys on the defense.
You need full-speed action, to really tell. I mean, out in practice, nobody's getting tackled, so you don't know if you made the tackle or missed it. We're not finishing on the quarterback. We're trying to stay away from them. So we need games.
Look, this is the best case scenario for Philly's defense. I mean, are you kidding me? You're going to get multiple drives of live full-speed action against one of the best offenses in the NFL to prep your guys and then see who can win some of those positional battles? Yeah, it's going to be lit. And by the way, speaking of that, we will be live streaming the game along with play-by-play, reactions, highlights, and everything else. So make sure to subscribe and turn the notifications on so you can join us as soon as the game starts. Okay, so back to camp real quick. Something that you're going to see that was very evident, but you're going to see it on Thursday. Elijah Cooks is the 4th best wide receiver on the roster. And truth be told, he might be playing even better than that at camp. Not even kidding, the 6'4", 215-pound wideout showed really good hands, crazy footwork, and some insane playmaking ability on Tuesday. Like on one rep when he faked a slant, caught the ball, and then cut on a dime to leave Eli Ricks in the dust and go in for a score. Only to follow that up on a slant on a 2-point conversion against Mac McWilliams, looking very reminiscent of A.J. Brown by how easily he beat Mac.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I know, I get it. It's one thing to do it in camp, it's another thing to do it in a game, but the fact that Cooks was not only out there with the ones, but also getting thrown the ball by Jalen Hurts, that speaks volumes. And the same thing for Jahan Dotson too, by the way, as he and QB1 connected on a crossing route for a touchdown on a zero blitz, which I'm telling you, the chemistry between 1 and 2 this season compared to last is a night and day difference. And not gonna lie, it makes it even that much more dope to get the signed jersey from J-Dot after the interview I had with him right before training camp. Of course, as always, if you want a chance to win this thing, then make sure to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to give it away on an upcoming live stream, as well as you got some entries on the previous Jahan Dotson interview. Again, I highly doubt we'll see too much during the preseason from the offensive starters. Yet one thing's for certain, even more so after being at camp, Johnny Wilson's needing to have a really good preseason if he's going to make the roster. because unfortunately he's had about one drop every day of camp, if not more, and again that happened on Tuesday. Not to mention the fact that his route running wasn't super crisp and the communication was off on a couple plays with the quarterback.
Doesn't make me feel any better.
Sorry, look, I want Johnny to work out. And he still could. After all, he's without question the best blocker when it comes to receivers on the roster. Plus, the silver lining is that Sirianni keeps running him with the ones a lot, and wide receiver coach Aaron Moorhead gives him an earful almost every rep. At the same time, I realize that could also be viewed as a bad thing, but I take that to mean the Eagles really want him to make the roster, therefore they're coaching him much harder than all the other bubble wide receivers. I don't know, maybe that's crazy, and you guys let me know any other theories you have on Johnny Wilson besides maybe it's just that he's not doing great and he's getting coached like crazy. I should also point out that despite being limited in practice, wide receiver Terrace Marshall got on individual work with Aaron Moorhead after practice, because just like Johnny, that's a dude the Eagles are very high on.
He's gonna make the room very uncomfortable, and that's a great thing, and I'm excited to see the room continue to evolve, not just him, but everybody push each other, so I'm excited.
Okay, truth be told, I would be surprised if Marshall ends up playing against the Bengals. And the same goes for a lot of guys, with the latest injury report being guys who did not practice at all on Tuesday, as Zach Bond dealing with a back, A.J. Brown in the hamstring, Montrell Johnson in a hamstring, and Byron Young with a groin injury. Now, just a heads up, though, that AJ should be fine, and even Zach Bond wasn't worried when we got to quickly chat with him during a photo op after practice. Anyway, as for the limited guys, it was Lewis Seen dealing with a hamstring, Charlie Hewlett, the long snapper of the neck, Trevor Keegan dealing with a back, Terrace Marshall, like I mentioned, with a knee, Mac McWilliams still injuring or still rehabbing the quad, Andrew Mukuba with a shoulder, and Matt Pryor with a shoulder as well. But the great news that we did get was that Nolan Smith turned out to be okay after leaving practice earlier in the week and ended up being able to get some reps in. Still, it's a decent amount of injuries, sure, and like I mentioned, I think in the long run, this actually pays dividends for guys being injured and then, the backups or kind of replacements getting more reps. Like one of the best case in points for that being Edge Ogbo Okoronkwo, as the 30-year-old has begun to get some snaps with the first team, flashing his ability as a pass rusher, although it's kind of already been known. Yet the area he started to get noticed in is being able to drop back in coverage on occasion. But truth be told, it's not like he hasn't done that before.
I did that in college. All my years in college, I played outside backer in college, and then in my first couple years in LA, I dropped quite a bit. I think with Brandon Staley, we ran a 3-4 over there. So I'm not totally new to it. It's been a while, but I'm not totally new to it.
Sometimes you're matched up, on some speedy receivers, I guess.
I mean, there's wrinkles in the defense that helps things like that. It's definitely they definitely put us in position to win. There's not a lot of times where I'm in a position where I don't feel comfortable in my matchup.
By the way, that was Ogbo's time in LA that he was referencing, and sure, he's definitely serviceable. Although the guy who looks like a natural with his previous safety background is Jalyx Hunt, with Jalyx getting to meet the Hunter and Trent Cole at practice, which was pretty sweet, and is someone who just continues to rack up endorsements from the team.
I'll tell you the person I feel like who's really made a huge jump is Jalyx. I know there's been a lot of talk around him, just seeing him from his rookie year to his second year, just the size he's put on, the speed, the strength, and how fast he wants to learn. He's a quick learner. He also wants to learn. You don't get that all the time with guys, but he does. And then, Nolan's taking huge strides, but, they're all guys who work hard. And everybody else they've been bringing in from Josh to we call him O2. But yeah, everybody's been great.
How does Jalyx demonstrate that, the eagerness to learn on an everyday basis?
I think he just learned from a good group of vets. He had Sweaty, BG, me, Teron Jackson, Nolan Smith. The list keeps going on, and so it's kind of hard not to learn, how to work and how to do the things right. And so he's kind of caught on to what it is, and he just kept on pushing.
It's every single practice. It's almost every single practice that somebody brings up Jalyx Hunt's name and how he's been progressing, which is fantastic, but it tells you there's a common denominator there. Jalyx Hunt is a freak athlete, and I'm just crazy hyped to see how good he ends up being this season. But also, I got to bring up Moro Ojomo because he's been dominating each day too, with Big Mo getting at least 1 to 2 more sacks during the team drills on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the starting linebackers were Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Jihaad Campbell, with Smael Mondon rotating in pretty frequently. Of course, the linebackers did make a couple plays, but they also got beat on a Texas route to Saquon Barkley, and then later on multiple passes to the flats on a play action to Will Shipley. Not the best sign, but having said that, it's very early, so not too concerned about some areas Jihaad needs to clean up, especially hearing real recognize real.
Super raw, freaky athletic. I think it's going to be a problem, a real big problem for a lot of guys in this league, having to go against him and blocking him. He's kind of built like Micah a little bit. knowing Micah for a long time. So I feel like, as he grows and learn the game a little bit more, you're going to be able to put him in different spots. But just raw, like uber athletic, can fly, aggressive, probably too aggressive in camp right now, to be honest. Got to teach him to stay away from the guys in red and, knowing when to tag off and take shots. But you'd rather him be more aggressive than not. So it's fun. It's fun again to go against him every single day. And he asks a lot of questions. He asks a lot of questions, whether it's, asking Zach and those guys, or if I might have made a move that might have worked on him, like coming up to me and seeing what I saw. So really excited for him.
I got a passion for this sport. Back in college, I had football in class. So now football is just my job. So I love to come out here and, just put everything from, the meetings and everything from walkthrough onto the field, so I can perform at my best.
Looky there, another guy who's been compared to Micah Parsons. And really, to make things even better, you've got that going on while Jerry Jones said he's not sure at all if Micah Parsons will play in the opener against the Eagles, saying, how would I know? A big part of that is his decision, which again is just too good seeing this whole drama thing play out. Anyway, as for some scheduling announcements, so the Eagles shared and then Big Dom confirmed to me that the 2 joint practices next week with the Cleveland Browns will be on Wednesday and Thursday. However, before we get there, the Eagles have their open practice to the public that will be happening this Sunday. And I'm curious, so let me know your thoughts in the comments about what you're most looking forward to there and for Thursday's preseason game. Also got to give a quick shout out to Ken, Alex, Jake, Chris, Lamont, Ryan, Sloan, everybody else. It was just a fantastic experience. And I say this all the time, but I'm dead serious about it. Could not do this without you guys. The support, the channel, all the recognition, it's because of you guys. So would not have been possible. Cannot thank you enough. Crazy giveaways coming. The Jihaad Dotson jersey, plenty more. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Football is back. It's right around the corner. This has been the Philly Special.
Feel like I should go.